Alright everybody, let's get started with round 4 of the Indiana Regional Championship between Chris Angelo on the left and Vince Blasko on the right. Now this is a pretty big regional championship, so I do not know every player in the tournament. So I really don't know who Chris Angelo is, but he must be somewhat competent to reach a 3-0 record. So we'll see how he does in this matchup. And Vince Blasko, we featured him several times on stream actually. He is a player from Chicago, very, very good player. Seems to do consistently well at these big regional events. And it seems like, Tynamo. There's a lone Tynamo out there, and Vince has gotten that shiny Rayquaza out there. He's playing an N. If he gets a switch or a Sky Arrow plus a Lightning, he can Dragon Pulse for 40 in the game. And if you're Chris right here, you are sweating bullets. You're like, ugh, don't let it be this way, God. Not the first turn loss, not the lone Tynamo. Why? And all you can do is sit there. I've been here many times. You sit there and, you were at the mercy of your opponent's deck. They have it or they don't. But then you see Vince play that fire. And you breathe in that sigh of relief. Alright, so looks like Vince is going to attach the fire. He could use Celestial Roar, but I think he's just going to attach and pass. Celestial Roar, a lot of people don't like using that attack, since you can end up discarding a lot of resources, and I would agree with that. I am more on the side of don't use Celestial Roar if you don't have to. And Vince went first, so I would say he doesn't have to use it. Now Chris, he gets an N from his random receiver, and I think Vince is going to be very happy to see that because his hand is complete garbage. It's worth a lot of money. I think he's got a full art Raikou, a full art Rayquaza, and some other stuff in there, but no supporter, no energy, no nothing. Just lots of Pokemon, no supporters. Chris is going to put down, let's see, what is that? His hand is blocking. It looks like a dragon type. I'm going to assume it's a Rayquaza. Yeah, I'm just going to say it's a Rayquaza. Yeah, alright. So he's going to attach a lightning to Tynamo. Probably going to play his N here. Unless he has another supporter, he might play that instead, but nope, here is the N. So both players will shuffle in and draw as many cards as they have prizes, which will be 6 in the opening stages of this game. We see N played frequently. Usually it's 4 in every single deck because, well, number 1, it's a good draw card at the beginning. Number 2, it's a good disruption card at the end. Number 3, we don't have Jack for supporters. We got Juniper and N. Those are the 2 that pretty much everyone plays 4 of. And then you got Bianca and Sharon, your other 2 draw supporters to work with. Generally considered far inferior to your other supporters out there. But, yeah, that's why we play 4N and 4 Juniper in every single deck. And if you don't, I don't know why. Alright, so looks like Chris, he's already attached. He's put down a Raikou. The mirror match is a very fickle thing. In the past, you would say, well, it's all about, Raikou. Volt Bolt knocks out your opponent's Eelektriks, and boom, that's all there is to it. You just cut off your opponent's Eelektriks, and you win the game. That's still very much true. If you cut off your opponent's Eelektriks, that's pretty much it. They don't have energy acceleration, they lose the game. But nowadays, things are more complicated than that. When you throw Rayquaza EX into the mix, and you can knock out a Raikou in 1 hit, that element to the mirror match wasn't really there before. And, ooh, Vince gets a nice turn 2 here. He gets End into a beautiful hand. He gets an Eelektrik. Discards 2 Lightning with his Ultra Ball. Gets 2 more Tynamos out here. This is an incredible start from Vince now. I don't think he'll be able to do any major attacking here, but Chris got Tails on his Thunder Wave, and wow, Vince plays his hand down to 0. Bianca's for 6. And he's just going to be able to attach at this point. And puts on a Sky Arrow as well. Ooh, I don't actually like that one. You should just hold on to that Sky Arrow, I think, until it benefits you and not your opponent. Nonetheless, he puts down the Sky Arrow, and oh, okay, he's just not putting his Rayquaza in harm's way. Or his Rayquaza EX in harm's way, sorry. It's not really a card you want to have on your board in the mirror match because Shiny Rayquaza, the one that Vince has active and one that Chris has in play, can just shred it for a knockout. And that's why Vince has retreated to his Rayquaza and used Dragon Pulse for 40. And he'll get first blood in this game, take the first knockout. He'll take out the first little Dynamo. And now what is Chris going to do here? He doesn't have many cards in his hand. So he might not have many options. You know, if he has a supporter, then obviously he's going to refill his hand. But he's going to Catcher up Dynamo. Nobody ever takes the Spark one. They take the Thunder Wave one every time. And he's just going to take a prize to try to keep up in the race here. He has to discard his top 2, though. No, he's not discarding his top 2. Hopefully they notice this. Hopefully they notice this. Alright, they didn't notice this. So guess we'll sweep that one under the rug. Chris did not discard his top 2 cards for Dragon Pulse. Tisk tisk. Vince puts down a second Rayquaza EX. I guess that's because he's thinking, alright, I'm actually knocking out my opponent's Shred Rayquaza here. And, oh, Vince plays an N, too. Interesting choice. I don't think I would have done that because Chris did not play a supporter that turn. Maybe Vince kind of promoted the wrong Pokemon there. I mean, he could have just Dynamoted to his Rayquaza and then Dragon Bursted for a knockout. He might have just been going for a Lightning Energy to be able to use Volt Bolt with Raikou this turn. Take out that Eelektrik. But, ooh, looks like he's going to attach to the active anyway. So if that's the case, just promote your Raikou and Dynamotor to your Rayquaza EX. He's going to Dynamotor again to the Shred Rayquaza. And he's just going to Dragon Burst. So, there are a few little things here from both players that might impact the game. The one from Vince playing the N when your opponent doesn't have anything in hand. That's more forgivable, I think, because you can never really know. I can't tell you how many times I have held on to my N, and then my opponent just top decks a Juniper. So, you never know what's going to happen there. But the one from Chris where he didn't discard his top 2 cards, I apologize if I completely missed it, and he did, but I'm very sure that he did not. I mean, he played a catcher and just knocked out a Dynamo and took his prize. Didn't discard his top 2 for Dragon Pulse. That will definitely change the way this game ends up, but there's nothing we can do about it now. So he's going to play a switch. Looks like he's going to go for another Paralysis Flip this turn with a Thunder Fang from Raikou. We've seen this used a lot recently in all sorts of matches. Just the Paralysis is so useful in slowing your opponent down. It's not as useful against Eelektrik decks because they usually play 4 switches to just get out of this Paralysis very easily. So Chris is going to Catcher up an Eelektrik to use the optimal buying time strategy. You know, if he flips Tails there, he doesn't get to paralyze the Rayquaza EX, so he figures, alright, let's have a fallback plan. Let's make him have a switch. Might as well do the 30, because there's no downside to it. And now Vince, he's going to need a switch this turn to really get out of this. He's got a fire. He's going to put it down to that other Rayquaza EX over there. So he's just kind of spreading out his fires. One of those awkward situations where you have a Bianca and you really don't want to play all these cards right now, but you really need to draw cards too. He has a Juniper in his hand as well, but he didn't want to discard fires. He's got a catcher too, so he probably didn't want to discard all that stuff. But we'll see what happens. Next turn he's probably going to draw into a switch. And then he'll be able to Dragon Burst for a knockout. You know, he'll probably end up playing the Juniper, but oh, he's going to catch her out. Chris's Eelektrik. And pass. And oh, we have the dreaded Eelektrik standoff. Who will blink first? Whose eel will come out on top? Will they start using Electric Ball to see who's more dominant? No, I would hope not. Both these players are going to be looking for a switch as soon as possible. But it's just kind of funny to me when I see this happen. Both players are like, I got nothing. I'm going to catch your Eelektrik. And the other guy's like, oh yeah? I can do that too. Catcher Eelektrik. And then it's just whoever draws a switch first gets out of this. So far, Chris has not really drawn a supporter. His hand is pretty poor. He's going to be able to Dynamotor to his Raikou again, which is fine. He'll be able to do that. Just powered up for Volt Bolt since you were really just going to do that at some point anyway. And he's going to pass. He doesn't have anything. Now Vince, he needs to get a switch. He's going to play a fire onto this other Rayquaza. He really just wants to get those in play before he Junipers this turn. I think he's got an energy switch as well, so he'll probably play that here. He could put it onto... Alright, he puts it on Rayquaza. This is really just kind of going all in on this Rayquaza. I mean, I think ideally here he would Volt Bolt. You know, get a switch and Volt Bolt this turn, knock out of the benched Eelektrik. But in order to do that, now he needs an Ultra Ball or another energy switch. And, ooh. He attached a second energy there. So I guess we're even now. Chris didn't discard 2 cards. Vince attached twice. Oh, boy. That's just, pulling out the broom a lot today. Sweeping stuff under the rug. Well, now this puts Chris in a bad position. We'll just pretend that, this doesn't matter. I really don't think it does. Chris doesn't have anything in his hand anyway. The outcome of this match probably isn't changed at all. Now Vince is just going to be able to attach to the Shred Rayquaza and just Shred for a knockout. Or just Dynamotor a couple times to it. Shred is pretty good against Eelektrik. Does 90. Shred is a very good attack in general. Just being able to do 90 to stuff, wins games, goes through Eviolite. Really underrated attack. And Chris, he needs a prayer here. Otherwise, this game is all over. If he doesn't get another Pokemon, even if he does, there's just a Rayquaza EX sitting to wait for him. Even if he manages to knock out one of them, he loses the game. There's no way around it. If he knocks out one, the other gets him. And he just takes out an Eelektrik, and that's actually just instantly game over. Vince is just going to retreat and Dragon Burst for 180 on the game. He's going to just kind of look at it and see, yeah, I guess I just won. Alright, Dragon Burst, 180. And Vince Blasko will move on to 4-0 here at the Fort Wayne, Indiana Regional Championship. Kind of a poor game there for Chris. Didn't really draw much, but that's how it goes sometimes. And congratulations to Vince. It's going to be 4-0. We'll be back with more rounds here soon from the Indiana Regional Championships. I am Pooka, and I will be back soon.